Major League Baseball's GM meetings are rolling ahead here soon, and the Cubs talking about what they could potentially do to make their team better. How about Michael King? Heard some rumors about the Padres right-hander. We're going to get into that. And Kyle Schwarber, I still think there is a good possibility that the Cubs are going to be in the mix for the slugger to return back to his rightful home at Wrigley Field. We'll get into that here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the bell. Appreciate you guys. And no, we love you in the comments section, even if you're Cardinals fans. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie. Great to talk to you guys today here on the Cubs Baseball channel. So on the road, but still throwing content your way. And during this offseason, we'll continue to try to do that as this team starts to put itself back together again. Now, Shota Imanaga surprised me a little bit taking the qualifying offer, but $22 million makes him the second highest paid player on the Cubs team. And when you look at the way that the Cubs payroll is constructed right now, even with Shota returning, there's definitely some money there that the Cubs could go out and spend, right? So will they be in the mix for Kyle Tucker? You know, what are they going to do as far as really getting after it to try to figure out how to improve this thing? You know, and it doesn't always mean throwing money at a roster's going to make, the team a lot better, but sometimes it does. I mean, you got to be smart with the way that you spend your money. And it feels like right now, just from some of the reports that you read, now I'm no expert on the amount of money that a team has, but Cubs payroll has gone from $231 million in 24 to $214.25. And right now it's $148. Now that to me means that there should be some money to go out there and spend on some talent. And I want to see that, right? Because I'm hoping that the Cubs will continue to get better. Now, the rotation, I think Shota Imanaga is going to help you. I don't think you want him to walk away. $22 million. The guy's been pretty durable. I know he gave up some home runs at the end of last year, but you look at the body of work, I still believe that there's some really good innings left in Shota. I love his personality. You know, the Cubs are going to try to sign maybe an international player from Japan or two. Having Shota on the team is only going to help the team, only going to make the Cubs better. So having him to me is it's an asset. And, you know, I know in the comment section, a lot of you guys were happy. Some of you guys would have liked to have seen the Cubs go a different direction. Now, this was interesting to me. The gang on Marquee talking about Michael King rumors, maybe where Michael King would be a guy who the Cubs would be interested in. And you guys know King, he last year pitched for the Padres and then, turned down his qualifying offer, like 15 or 16 million. And now he's a free agent, which means if you go and you sign him, you're going to have to give up a draft pick to be able to get him, to get him. That's part of the deal, right? The competitive balance thing. But he's a 31-year-old right-handed pitcher, 2-year starter. Before that, though, he was with the Yankees, and he was a really good reliever in New York. And it's had like a 2.88 ERA and 27 holds and a little over a handful of saves from 21 to 23. And then the Yankees traded him in the Juan Soto deal to the Padres. Then they turned him into a starter. And he when he's been healthy, he's been really good. Now, he had some injury issues last year, shoulder and a knee. And so he came back for the series against the Cubs and pitched some, what do you have, like an inning, right, in game 3. So he came back. I mean, the hope is that you go and you sign a guy like this and that he's healthy, and maybe he's kind of like this next season's Michael Boyd, right? But look, I think that when you look at the free agents that are out there, we're hoping that the Cubs maybe hit a bigger home run than Michael King. Now, he's a control-oriented right-hander with 5 different pitches, and he generates a lot of weak contact. I mean, that's one of his things. And strikeouts, which you do those 2 things anywhere, you're going to be successful, but even more so at Wrigley, right? 93 mile per hour average on the sinker with a side arm run, right? Gets a lot of ground balls with that. He's got the 4-seam fastball, which in this day and age with everybody trying to uppercut their swing, when you throw that 4-seamer and you kind of get it above that swing zone, it's a really effective pitch. And that's where a lot of the strikeouts come. And then you get the fly balls on that. He's got a sweeper, which is a slider, obviously. And he actually learned that pitch from Corey Kluber. It's not a bad guy to learn from. Changeup, which is my favorite pitch for any pitcher. And again, that's kind of a sidearm fade type sink. It's not one of my favorite pitches for him, but it gets outs, and then his regular slider, right? Sweeps across the zone, and so he kind of misses those. The sweeper and the slider mixes those up, but the guy in 24 was really good. I mean, you're talking about 30 starts, 173 innings, had a 2.95 ERA, was really effective for the Padres, pitching in what has become arguably the toughest division in baseball when you're in there with the Giants and the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks out in the West Coast. So maybe it'd be a little easier in the Cubs division, although I don't know. I mean, when you look at the Brewers and the Reds and how they're getting better, and the Pirates are going to be tough, and the Cardinals. So he's been in a tough division. Sometimes guys can hide in bad spots. Now, San Diego's stadium's a pitcher's stadium, but yeah, it was a $15 million mutual option, and he opted out of it. So we'll see. Is he going to be durable enough for the Cubs? Would this be the home run that you guys want? That's the question that I have. And I don't know that that's the answer. I think that a lot of us are hoping that Dylan Cease is someone that the Cubs are truly interested in. A couple of really solid potential star pitchers from Japan, and imagine that. And then with Shota, and the Japanese players have come over, and they've been kind of like the Europeans have been in the NBA. They're some of the best players in baseball. I don't want to say they're taking over the game, but Shohei Ohtani's the best player in the game. And then everybody else kind of, slots in off of that. And, Sale was so good for the Cubs in the postseason, and you hope that he continues that. Now, let me ask you guys this. Do you like free stuff? Do you like swag? I think the answer here is yes, you love swag. And that's why I want to throw this up here. There's the QR code right there. Join Mick Nation. Hit that QR code, AveD. That's our Web3 home. So eventually we'll have a store on there. We're building up to this, right? It's a place that we can go and talk Cubs baseball. It's the future of the web, right? And so we're on the cutting edge right now. That's our home. But right now we're doing, pick contests and weekly cash giveaways, and then swag. We got Cubs baseball channel swag, and our first round of stuff is hats, and we've been giving those away. So please be a part of that. And thank you for your support. And a lot of you guys get in the comment section here and tell me what you think about AveD, and maybe how we can make it better, or what you like about it, and what maybe you guys want to bet on. Maybe not necessarily bet, but me to put in there. Would it be something like, would the Cubs get Kyle Schwarber? Because that's where I'm going next. There's a lot of talk about what could happen with Kyle Schwarber. And when you watch Josh Naylor get $90 million to stay with the Mariners, I feel like Kyle Schwarber is a much better version. He would immediately elevate the Cubs lineup. I've said this before, I'm going to put it up and then go back a little bit, but the marketing value of a Schwarber would be enormous to the Cubs. And they should value that, because wouldn't it be fantastic if he's part of the next Cubs World Series team? And nobody in baseball seems to be as good as he is in the clutch in those big games. So I would love to see him. I don't think the Cubs are going to pay the $400 million for Kyle Tucker. Yeah, I know Schwarber's limited as far as what he does in the field. He's become a permanent DH. Would it be possible to get him to play some first base? Could he play in the outfield? I don't know, but his bat plays. And the DH spot in this day and age, when scoring can be so difficult, it's a big position. And the Phillies are going to try to sign him. There's a rumor that maybe the Pirates would be interested in him. Who knows? Probably some other teams that are going to try to slide in there and get him. But it would be such a great story if Kyle Schwarber ended up coming back to the Cubs. Now, I feel like with a guy who I really believe is going to be an impact player for the Cubs this year, and you guys got a taste of him last year, and that's Owen Caissie. So Owen Caissie, I think, is going to be in right field with Seiya Suzuki, and then Moises Ballesteros. Maybe you trade one of those guys and get something valuable back. Maybe you trade some of the guys you have right now in the rotation. Colin Ray, you got him, but there'd be value for somebody, another team out there just because of his versatility and durability. I love the guy. Justin Steele's going to be back. Cade Horton's going to be there. So the Cubs have some good pitching. But what I would want to do if I was the Cubs is I would want to, instead of having, a lot of 4s and 5s in the rotation, I'd try to figure out a way to have more top-end guys, because I think it's going to take that to win the division over Milwaukee and win the World Series, right? I mean, you got to have an Arrieta. You got to have a Lester. You got to have a Hendricks. I mean, it takes that, we know. And I don't think the team last year had that. And you got into the postseason, you get into the last game, and you'd rather pitch the bullpen than the starter. And part of that was on Shota. But anyway, he's coming back. Shota, Michael King talked about him. Kyle Schwarber could definitely help the Cubs as far as his ability to hit home runs. Can you imagine him coming back and putting them out on the streets again over the bleachers? I can. It would be such a great story. But the financial part of this too is I think the Cubs have the money to make this happen. And unlike Tucker, you're not going to have to pay Schwarber, I wouldn't think, 10 years. 10 years is a long time in baseball. Would you go 5? 4 or 5 years? Yeah. I mean, I would for Schwarber, because you get to that mark and he's going to be around, if everything goes as planned, I think he's going to be around 500 home runs. And that would be, from a marketing standpoint, huge. I mean, can you imagine the chase and all that stuff? But the other part of it is that he delivers. So the Cubs are still being mentioned in the mix for him. I guess that people are kind of saying, hey, the Phillies want him back, and I guess that I don't think that makes the Cubs a long shot here, but the Phillies, I've heard the Reds pop up before. He's from Ohio. Cincinnati's kind of one of those teams that if they added somebody like him, maybe they could, jump in and he'd make a difference. But even just having his presence in the lineup would help this entire team. When Tucker was that guy and he was healthy, the entire team was better. And I feel like that's what the Cubs were missing towards the end of the season. And when Tucker was hurt and he was inconsistent, I feel like with Schwarber, he could potentially be that guy. Maybe, and look, I may be wishful thinking right now, but it just makes too much sense to me. And when I hear people that, that are on different shows giving their opinion and they're poo-pooing it, I'm going, you know what? No, I mean, I think this is potentially something that they should do. And look, maybe you trade them eventually. It doesn't mean you don't have to give a no trade clause. So anyway, that's where we are. I wanted to put this show together. I'm going to keep following the Schwarber thing because I really feel like this could catch fire, but we'll see. There's an opening. Not hearing much at all as far as the Cubs and Tucker are concerned. And the Cubs know they gave up a ton for Tucker. And in some of these trades they made, you look at the players that they gave up, like Cam Smith. And if you're not going to get Tucker, one way to get everybody off your back is to get Schwarber. Because I think everybody would be fired up about that. Anyway, you guys give me your opinion. Get in the comments section, like, subscribe, thumbs up, be here for the shows. Thank you. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll try to get you through the weekend. And go Cubs. Kind of a fun time of year, just seeing how this roster is going to be put together.